Tell him, Steve Dave.
Do you remember playing that prank on Muse?
Yeah.
Walt was the fucking prankmeister general. When we worked at the Recreation Center, over the summer, there was a program where high school kids would work part-time. And the weirdest thing was, and maybe they're going to be offended by it, but it was people from like special ed
they were the
and
challenge
resource
kids.
room. Yeah, challenge, but not even like mentally all the time, but like behaviorally.
Yes.
Yeah, like they were fuck-ups.
But isn't it ridiculous, though, that you sent the kids who had the most problems in school to work with the young kids? Wouldn't you have sent the kids who got A's?
Someone that could serve as somewhat of a role model to these kids.
but no, they sent the bottom of the barrel.
They literally were like, okay, part of your since you fucking failed everything, part of your summer school requirements are you're going to go down to the recreation center and watch these impressionable kids that are between the ages mostly like 6 to 12, somewhere around there. And they weren't all bad. Some of them were actually pretty decent, mostly the girls.
There was like one room that had air conditioner.
Yeah, it was a library.
And like if it rained, most kids tried to flock to that room. And I remember walking into that air conditioned room, and underneath the desk, Muse was sleeping.
And he would sleep on the tables too.
Yeah,
so did Kevin, though. I remember Kevin laying down on the tables and watching movies. Not that Kevin was part of like the short bus crew or anything, but when Kevin worked there, sometimes he would just lay on the table and watch movies. But Muse, he was one of the worst ones.
Muse was one of the worst, but worst/best, because he was one of the most funnest. He was aware there was a joke going on.
Right.
He wasn't oblivious to the fact that, you were funning on him.
There was a kid who Muse tormented relentlessly. There was something going on with him. He was a
coworker.
He was a coworker. Yeah. It wasn't one of the kids in the program. He was one of the youth workers, and he would pin him against the desk and dry hump the kid. I mean, a couple times a day. He would take his dick out
and put it next to his face when no other kids were running around.
Yeah. I remember.
He's joking. That's sexual abuse.
Yeah, like the kind of shit now.
Oh yeah. Now in today's world,
Muse would be gone.
Oh, he would be gone. Transplanted to Siberia and fucking recreation center.
Muse was helping carry some shit out from the kitchen, and the one kid was struggling with a heavy box of like canned peaches or something, and Muse is laughing at him and ridiculing, not realizing that the box that Muse was carrying was bleach. And one of the bottles had broken open, and it's pouring all over his shirt and pants, these big bleach stains and shit. But we used to play pranks on these guys, the youth workers, all the time, and Walter one time called as Muse's supervisor, because they used to get paid monthly. I think they got paid once a month. Walter called as the supervisor and told Muse that there was something wrong with his check. He wasn't going to get paid for the month, so he would have to wait another month unless he went up to the school at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, meanwhile, they're supposed to be there at 8 or something. And because it was what happened was you went to school part-time, then you went down to the recreation center for the other part of your day. And Walt called him and said, you have to be up there at 6 in the morning. And Muse was like, well, I don't know. And Muse got out 3 words, and Walt was like, well, if you want to get paid, you're going to be up there at 6 in the morning. Otherwise, you can wait till next month. And he was like, okay. Sure enough, the next morning, and they got picked up by a bus to get up to the school. So obviously no bus is coming for Muse at 6. So Muse has to walk all the way up there. He sits around for 2 hours, finally comes back down, and Walt's laughing in his face.
Do you remember that other kid that we told him about? I pretended I was a supervisor. This one kid, he was kind of.
It was the same kid that Muse was pretending to dry hump constantly.
So I pretended I was a supervisor who had just been in the building. There was a real supervisor in the building about 15 minutes after I called. He had left. So I pretended I was calling after he left to talk to this one individual, and I had him get on the phone, and I told him that I had left my sunglasses down on the beach. And it's like 100.
No, you didn't say. You said you left your sunglasses there. You left your sunglasses in the recreation center with no specific location where you might have left them, but tasked this kid with finding them.
Yeah, and I was watching him from
Right.
I was watching him as
Yeah, you
I
could
was
watch-
talking on the phone. I could see what he was doing, so I was directing him. It's like, well, they might be in the garbage. Could you check the garbage for me? I had a newspaper. I might have wrapped them up in there. So he's digging through the garbage half-heartedly because I could see him not really looking. And I would threaten him, like, now if you're not looking hard, you can't be removed from the program. And I've given this test to you because I trust you because I know you're the best worker there.
and the kid was he's bouncing back and forth to these different locations, and Walt became steadily more frazzled, and it was a black dude, so you had on this black voice where it was
the evaluator.
Right,
I was the evaluator.
The evaluator.
I told him, go down to the beach. I said, I was down on the beach. I go, just one last, could you just check one more place?
Because you said that's when you said they were in the newspaper.
They were wrapped in a newspaper in the tin steel dumpster where there's all bees all over the place.
Yeah, it's like a 55-gallon drum, yeah, with tons of yellow jackets and shit swarming around it.
I told him to go down there and look. And he made like that sigh, we watched him as he trudged down.
But
the
before
beach.
he even went down to the beach, and he expressed his dismay at having to do that, and you screamed at him. You go, "Those sunglasses were a present from my wife. You better find them, or we're gonna have problems." The kid says, he goes, "All right," and he goes running down to the beach, and I would say it's a good football field's length away.
We watched him as another bigger kid was down there, remember? And he was pestering that bigger kid.
Yeah, he's going from person to person, like asking them obviously about these sunglasses.
I saw him get punched.
Yeah, he goes.
It's like one of these tougher, bigger kids. He's talking to him. He pushes him out of the way, and he keeps talking to him. He keeps bugging him. Finally, the kid turns around, and we're so far away that we see him punch him in the chest as hard.
He hits him in the chest so hard, and the kid, he didn't fall, but he goes flying back. He goes,
you guys are dying.
He runs.
Part of you was like, we gotta help him.
No. It was awesome. He runs back to the wreck, and I don't even remember how it ended because
I remember how it ended.
Oh, how did it end?
He came up, and I was like, and I thanked him for doing such a great job. I told him, I was like, I really want to make it up to you. My wife's away for the weekend, and I have a cabin.
That's right.
And I want to come up, and I want to bring you out there for the weekend. There's a pinball machine in my basement.
And a hot tub.
And
there was a hot tub. Yeah. And I remember he was like, I don't know if my grandmother's going to allow that. And you're like, well, you don't have to tell your grandmother again. That's right. I think what made the recreation center job tolerable was that I worked with you and Kev until Kev took off. He didn't work there as long as we did. It was busting those kids' balls and even busting the balls of the younger kids. There was a kid who came in completely beside himself because his lunchbox was missing. And he told us, Walter and I, that he suspected that a guy from the local deli had taken it because kids used to go to the Parrot, this deli called the Parrot, after school every day and get candy and stuff. So he told us that he suspected that the guy who made the subs at this deli had probably taken it.
An adult taken
An adult, yeah, an adult.
This.
So I called from the trusty phone in the library, pretending to be that guy. And I remember you got him on the phone. I pretended I was the guy from the deli, and I had his lunchbox. I'm like, I bet you're looking for your lunchbox, aren't you? And he was like, this isn't really blah, blah, blah. The guy from the deli. I remember he wanted us to bring him down there to confront the deli owner.
I don't remember this at all.
Really?
Not one bit of it, no.
And I mean, we didn't let it go on for too long, but those kind of ball-busting antics to me were what... That's what I mean, it's totally irresponsible, and we should have been fired. But
the one that makes me laugh, I still remember it so fondly, was that same kid I pulled that prank on.
Mm-hmm.
He was out there. He was annoying, so it wasn't as if like he was totally innocent. He would just bug me. And
do you remember he was probably 14, and
he was older. He was 16.
He was consumed with the process of canning vegetables.
Yeah.
Like how he wanted to start.
He was like a cartoon character.
Yeah, he wanted to start his own cannery, and it was really strange. Yeah.
But I had him convinced. He pissed me off about something. Like he yelled at a kid that I felt like a younger kid in the program who shouldn't have been yelled at. Like he blew up on a 6-year-old, and I told him that that if he doesn't shape up, that I could have him out of there and working for the sewer department, because that was a lot.
Oh, I remember this too.
Remember this? And he would kind of like he kind of was giving me a little lip. And then when I started telling him like what happened to the guy the previous year who was removed, went to the sewer department, he got nervous because I told him that his job would be you just sit in the sewer department and there's a giant vat of feces.
It was. I remember you said it was like a holding pool. It was basically an Olympic-sized cesspool.
and any feces in that pool goes through some sort of purification and gets broken up. But if the pieces of it are too big, it won't go through the machine. It'll jam it up. So your job would be to take
this is where he comes
a
in.
metal stick, and you got to go as like a conveyor belt kind of line, like I Love Lucy with the chocolates. You would have to break big feces into little pieces.
Right, he had to break up.
And he was so concerned that like he was like, I'm not going to do that. You could see on his face like the whole day he was.
Well, you also, I remember you took the attitude with him, was like, if I say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And he kowtowed, man.
He was perturbed the whole day. Like he didn't have a good day the rest of that day.
No, the threat of having like a pool boy, except like in hell.
I still remember that, man. That makes me laugh even to this day. Remember we sent Muse over to Long John's too, though? They found his wallet or something, and then they also had free popovers, and if you got over there right away, you could get popovers.
Yeah. There was a restaurant called Long John's that was probably about a block away. It was a seafood restaurant about a block away from the Recreation Center, and they had these things. They were like little muffins or biscuits or something. They called them popovers, and kids basically Dickensian street urchins would run to.
I remember when I moved to Highlands, it was like
popovers. Yeah, you lived half a block away from them.
Yeah, but I had never heard of such thing as a popover. And thinking back, you would have thought they were laced with cocaine. The way people were so
they were so addictive.
Them.
Yeah,
but people were like popovers, free popovers, let's go.
Yeah, and it was it's bread.
Yeah,
it's bread. I guess you were in 6th grade and you had a paper route for the Advisor, which was basically, it wasn't even really that much of a newspaper. It was like the Advisor. So it was all ads. It was free.
It was free. So every house that on my route had to get that paper.
So after a little while, we figured a better use for those plastic bags. We would take the papers out, fill the plastic. Do you remember this? Filling the plastic bags with water, and we would go down to Long John's and then open up the kitchen door. And more than once, on more than one occasion, we would fill the bags with water, go down, open up the door, and be like, "Fuck you!" and just throw bags of water all over these cooks and shit, cooks, prep cooks, dishwashers, and just one after the other until they started coming, and then we would just run. And then you'd give it you give it a buffer of a day or two.
And you go
pop
back.
The door open and be like, "Fuck you!" and just start throwing the bags.
The garbage started to go down.
Right? Yeah. Even if it happened once, let alone maybe a couple times within a week. You're working at the store, you're up at the register. Somebody opens up the door, screams, "Fuck you," and hits you in the face with a fucking plastic bag full of water.
And the water wasn't from a tap. It was fucking dirty puddle water that was on the road.
Or from the river, because the river was so close, we just fill it up.
PCBs and shit in their eyes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that door opens and they're like, "Oh, here's some neighborhood children coming for popovers." And we're like, "Guess again, motherfuckers."
The only pranks I ever did was calling you guys and being like, "Stugans!" But I mean, that got you bad because you would just sigh. Or I'd call and be like, "Does Kevin Smith work that?" Whenever I call, you'd be like, "No, he doesn't work here."
We had a fax machine, and there was a picture of some drag queen with a
This is down at the rec?
I was at the rec, but he was at the store when his stash was on Monmouth Street, and I cut the picture out of the drag queen with the goatee, and I put "I'm not even supposed to be here today" a word balloon over it, and I faxed it over to him, and
but for some reason,
and he didn't know it was from me though.
The fax number didn't read the Recreation Center's fax number. I didn't recognize the number.
So I called him later on, and I was like, "Did you get that fax?" And I was like, "I'm surprised you didn't call or have a comment about it." And he goes, "That was you?" Oh, I was so fucking annoyed about that. Like, he didn't think it was funny, and that was what always made me laugh the hardest. Was like, he was so
Coiled.
downtrodden. Like, he was just like that just sent him into a
From day one.
yeah. It annoyed him so much that somebody would send him a fax that said that. Like, what asshole would send this?
Who the fuck thinks they're so funny?